Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Gurman and I am a potter based in Austin, Texas. I want to welcome you to my new studio that I've built over the last few months while sheltering in place. And today I am going to show you how I make some of my altered forms, specifically bowls. So I throw my work on the wheel and then alter it after taking it off of the wheel. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to go ahead and get the clay centered. Get really stuck to the bat and kind of mash it into a cone to even start off with. I do throw with the sponge. It does seem to help keep things wet and smooth, and just seems to give me a little bit more control. Go ahead and open the form up. I'm going to leave enough at the bottom that I can trim a foot later on. Open it up. Really kind of compress this bottom with my thumbs while trying to keep a rounded inside. I do center with one of the larger yellow sponges, but then when I go to pull and do more refined work, I do switch to one of these finer sponges. So I'm going to go ahead and start to form the bowl. Press that one more time. So I alter my rims and leave them pretty defined. So as I start to pull up, I'm going to make sure I leave enough clay at the rim that I can define it here after I've got the bowl form thrown. I'm going to compress that rim though as I get to the top. Round it over while it's got clay underneath it to support it. Some of the water out of there. Then I have a metal rib that has a nice contour to it that I'm going to use to rib the inside. Clean it up and compress some of that grog that's in this stoneware. I'm going to use one of just these normal wooden ribs, and I'm going to define this rim a little bit so that it isn't just a bowl, but the top of it, it's actually got lines on each side, and that'll help when I go to alter it later to have those lines. The inside and the outside. Occasionally on the inside I'll pull some other wooden tools with a sharper edge form too far off from what I originally wanted while I was working on the rim. And then I'll go ahead and chamois that rim. Some of the excess at the bottom, so I'll have to trim it off later. And there we go. Okay, so I have been letting these bowls sit up for a few hours now. They're firm, but still flexible enough that I can alter these rims pretty heavily. So I am going to start with marking out some spots to divide this. I have a dividing wheel here that is just a printed off one, and I'm just going to kind of lightly lay it on top and center it up. And I'm going to mark 3 spots on here. I'm just marking them with a little tick on the rim. Alright. So then I also have templates that I've created over time of the shapes that I use. And so I have made them in craft foam, and that makes them really easy to reuse all the time because they won't fall apart like paper generally does over time, and they're really flexible, so I can kind of line them up how I need to. So now I'm going to go, and I've got this shape right here, and I'm going to line it up with each of the marks that I made. I'm going to center it right under the edge of that rim. And then I'm going to take a knife and not cut it yet, but just go ahead and mark it. I'm going to do that on all 3 spots. Okay, and now I'm going to go around the form one more time now that I've sketched those on there. I'm going to make sure that it's flowing from one of these to the next a little nicer, so I'm going to extend these lines a little bit. So that these areas that I'm cutting transition a little bit better into each other. And again, I'm not cutting through yet. I am just kind of sketching the lines out. And that way I can take a look at the whole thing here in a second. And I still have the ability to make some changes if I need to. All right, so I'm fairly happy with that. So now I am going to go through and actually cut these out. So I'm going to cut along my line that I sketched in there, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to use this line that I created when I threw the bowl. I'm going to cut right underneath that. Because this bowl is still kind of soft, you can see I'm supporting it with my hand behind where I'm cutting. All right, so now I can kind of lift this up and separate it, and I can get this section out of here. Usually little sticks in the corner right there. So now I am going to score these and push them together. So I just have one of these fan score tools. And just get a little bit of water from my bucket because the clay is still very wet. I'm not going to use any slip. So I've scored at the bottom, and then I'm going to come, and it's nice because this has this nice angle on it, so it's really easy to kind of score underneath this rim. Now I'm going to get a little bit of water on my fingers, and I'm just going to start to push this down. I can usually find my little line that I made when I divided the bowl. I'm going to push it down in the middle, and then I'm going to work these two areas into each other. Alright, and I will go ahead and take a sponge and clean it up a little bit just so there's not any standing water on it. And then I also have, it could be wooden, I happen to have a metal one, but it's just the right shape. I have a tool that I will come in here, and you can see the score lines. I'm gonna compress where I put these together using the edge of this tool, and just also help to refine that line. Then I may check it on the back side as well, but a lot of times I will leave the back side to clean up after I trim. But I will run a sponge over it. And I'll run a sponge over this again as well. Okay, now I'm gonna do the rest of them. And like I said, you can see the rim is pretty soft still. The bottom of the bowl is even still pretty tacky to the touch as far as being wet. I really do have to kind of monitor these to get them at the right consistency when I make these bowls. If I let it sit too long, I'll have issues with the rim cracking when I go to move it. So these are generally, I don't usually do more than 4 to 6 at a time, and I try to do them all in one day, the throwing and altering the rim. Alright, so now that all 3 sections have been cut and altered, I a lot of times will also actually alter the rim a bit more by sweeping out some of these sections. I'm just doing that with the fact that the clay is still kind of wet, just kind of working it with the sponge to give it a little more movement. All right, so now I'm gonna let this continue to set up, and I will come back later as it starts to get to the leather hard stage, and I will turn it over and clean up the back side of this rim, and then I will also trim the foot into the bowl.